In June of 2010, representatives from the Wilderness Committee and Citizens for Public Power went on a road trip to the communities of the southern interior of British Columbia to talk about the fight to keep our power public and our rivers wild. The first community we visited was Vernon, where we were hosted by the Council of Canadians.
A journalist, a historian, as well as an ecologist, and he's also the co-founder.
One of Greenpeace's former founders, Rex Weiler, spoke for Citizens for Public Power.
They're coming to British Columbia and they've got their eye on 700 wild watersheds in British Columbia. Now, guarantee the people in South America are facing this. Bechtel did the same thing in Bolivia. They went into Bolivia and they privatized every drop of water in Bolivia. But my friends, the people stood up. People in Bolivia stood up and they said no, and they booted Bechtel out of there, and now they have control of their government.
Glenn Barley, Policy Director with the Wilderness Committee, explained the many environmental impacts so-called run-of-river private power projects have both on the rivers and the surrounding landscape.
Thank you very much.
After Vernon, the road trip to save BC's wild rivers and public power headed for the Kootenays, where we made a stop to speak at Nelson and then on to Invermere in the Columbia Valley.
I would now like to introduce to you Nadine Hale. Nadine is the current chair of the newly founded Columbia Valley chapter of the Council of Canadians. Nadine?
So I just wanted to say that the issues that are being addressed tonight, privatization of public power and putting corporate interest ahead of public interest, these are core issues for the Council of Canadian and central to our work. It has been said that the highest office in a democracy is that of a citizen, that people have the right to be informed and the responsibility to be engaged in the political life of their country. And I think that this evening's presentations will give us some of the tools to be engaged and informed. So I'm really looking forward to it.
So the group I work with, the Citizens for Public Power, our purpose in all of this, is our goal in all of this, is to keep electrical power production in British Columbia public. And there are very good reasons for this. One of the things that they're doing with these run-of-river projects is that they are gutting and destroying our public power system, BC Hydro. They are turning it over to the private power producers. They've outlawed the opportunity for BC Hydro to develop power. That's our company. That's our public company. They're gutting it. Our government is gutting and destroying our own public company. I find this just outrageous, if not criminal. Now, on top of this, when they passed Bill 30 because of the Ashley River project, where the people rose up and said, no, we don't want it, so they pass a law. Our government, the people that our citizens elected to run this province on our behalf, passes a law and says, you do not have the authority to make any decisions about these power projects in your local region. They took your power away from you. Your government, who's there to represent, supposedly to represent your interests, have said, no, you don't have any authority, you don't have any power. We're taking that away from you. And again, I find this outrageous, if not criminal. For public power, our point is this. The reason for preserving BC Hydro is that BC Hydro is here to not just produce power. It's here to produce power. Yes, that's one of the things it does, but it's here to do more than that. It's to look after our interests as citizens. It's to produce the power we need, first of all, before we decide on a massive industrialization of 700 watersheds, to actually do the research to determine how much power we actually need. And it also looks after other values. BC Hydro has a responsibility to look after the ecological values of our province. So we're not going to go in and destroy, we've already made tremendous sacrifices in this province in order to create the power that we already have. But BC Hydro has a responsibility to look after our environment as well as to produce power. These private power companies have no responsibility whatsoever to look after our environment. They have no responsibility to produce power that we need. They have no responsibility to keep rates affordable to people in BC. That is not their role, that's not their goal, that's not their interest. They have one interest, and that is to produce profits for their shareholders. So my friends, protecting these rivers is more than just protecting the rivers. The first value, protecting the rivers, is extremely important. They're wild places that we need to protect. But what's also on the table here is our rights as citizens to have a public power system, BC Hydro, that is looking after more than just producing power, that is looking after our interests as citizens and as communities. And so I want to ask you to please, when you see the pictures of these rivers, you'll understand these are not small micro hydro. They're not green. They are major industrial occupations of these watersheds.
There are 24 IPP applications on the west side of the Kinbasket Lake. It goes over east to Revelstoke and north towards Mica Dam. These applications are separated into 2 clusters.
And in regards to the form letter that James was mentioning earlier, there is a form letter that's been drafted, and we do have copies available outside. Again, that public comment period for the Integrated Land Management Bureau is only open until June 23rd, so I highly encourage all of you to definitely call the ILMB if you feel so encouraged. Write them personal letters, email them, or send them a form letter if that's easier for you to do, because I know that everyone's strapped for time.
For all 7 tributaries of the Upper Pitt River, we were pretty concerned. And
the Wilderness Committee's Sven Biggs explained to the crowd how private power projects can be stopped. Notably, in the Upper Pitt River, where 7 rivers were proposed to be dammed and diverted, a large turnout at the public hearings resulted in those projects being stopped dead in their tracks. Then the road trip headed for the town of Golden, where we were hosted by the Council of Canadians and the good people at Wild Sight.
As far as the Wood River goes, I think a lot of us are very aware with what's happening with the Wood River. I think a lot of us in this room took the trip out to the Wood River Valley in the fall, and we had a fabulous time out there. It was an amazing experience, and we put together a film that I'm pretty proud of. I think it's really great, and it shows that a lot of people in this community are really committed to keeping our local rivers and creeks ours, and we don't want to give them away.
The Wood River Valley is a place where time stands still. It has escaped developmental pressures of the industrialized world. This is a place where if time travel were possible and we could go back hundreds of years, this area would look very much as it does now. In today's modern world, wilderness such as the Wood River Valley.
That's it for today's report on the road trip to save BC's wild rivers and public power. To find out more about this campaign, go to wildernesscommittee.org. This has been Joe Foy for the Wilderness Committee. Bye for now.